racist, your sexist, and your bigoted remarks. That's all we're going to deal with for the remainder of the program because you have already indicated where you stand. There, Mary. Try to wake up, Mary. You're on the air.
Yes, Lassiter. You have had a change of heart, haven't you? Remember those dirty sex programs you put on last summer? Yeah. Now he's playing pious. He's so good. He's defending everybody. When did you have a heart change?
So, who did you want to knock today, Mary?
I wanted to knock you.
Mm-hmm. No, how about your favorite racial group? Why don't you knock them while you're
so
on the
pious.
air, too?
You're so pious.
You hate
now.
niggers, Mary?
You're running crazy to hang on to that
Really
job.
do, don't you, Mary?
I hope your new employer...
No, I'm not running... Mary, let's get something clear. I'm not running scared to keep the job. Mary, let's get something real clear because I want to ruin your day, Mary. I have a one-year no-cut contract, Mary. How do you like that? And it's brand new. And it pays a hell of a lot of money, too, Mary.
You're a crook and a fake.
A crook and a fake with a one-year contract, Mary, that you're going to have to listen to because you'll listen to it every damn day of your life. Bill in Tampa, you're on the air at WFLA.
Yeah, Bob?
Yeah.
I agree that the policeman should have been fired.
Well, you're not listening to the show. Too bad. Bill in St. Petersburg, you're on the air at WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bill.
I don't understand why, it's such a big deal all the time, every time one of these blacks whines and moans, that they always get their way. And doesn't matter whatever they're crying about. I don't think that cop should have been fired.
How's that, Bill?
I just don't think he should have. I don't think Jimmy the Greek should have been fired. I think they blow this whole big issue out of it. They try being Americans instead of so worried about raising a ruckus and being black. Everybody'd be a lot better off.
Where'd your people come from, Bill?
Over in Europe.
Whereabouts in Europe?
Czechoslovakia.
Czechoslovakia. Stinking Czechs, huh?
It's awful hard not to be prejudiced against them. I'm just sick of their whining and bellyaching.
Yeah, I'm sick and tired of Czechoslovakians walking around, with snot hanging out of their nose.
Well, you can do that if you want. I don't really care. But see, that's the difference.
Oh, it doesn't bother you, Bill? Doesn't bother you?
No.
No, of course not.
So, I don't, this whole thing is just crazy. You can sit there and call me names all day. I don't care. But every time you say something to one of these blacks, they got every organization in the world going to bat for them.
Well, maybe they need them, Bill. With guys like you.
I think they've gone overboard.
Oh, I see. So anybody should just accept any kind of insult or slur that anybody wants to toss at them. Whatever, right.
That's just crazy that there's so much catering to a minority of people. What about the rest of us?
What about the rest of us, Bill?
Well, we sure don't get the special
I beg your pardon, Bill. You're not in the majority. You're a Czechoslovakian. Come on, man. You want to talk about minorities.
The difference between me and them is I'm not running around town raising a ruckus about being a Czechoslovakian descent.
Well, maybe that's because nobody's running around town putting you down for being of Czechoslovakian descent, nor should they.
Try being Americans and the hell with all this black crap.
What do you mean, try being Americans? You told me you were Czechoslovakian. Aren't you an American?
Yeah, I'm an American.
Oh, but you haven't forgotten about where your ancestors came from, have you?
You asked me where they're from.
Like I said, you haven't forgotten about it either, have you? Well, it would seem to me as a good American, you should have forgotten about it. As a good American, right, Bill?
Well,
you should put it out of your mind.
Brown eyes, too, It's about the same difference to me. Don't mean a thing.
Well, like I said, why haven't you forgotten about where your ancestors came from?
Same reason I haven't forgot that the sky's blue. Somebody told me.
Well, I'm sure there are lots of things you've been told in your lifetime that you've put out of your mind, Bill.
Well, I guess the same reason that you remember your name.
No, not exactly, Bill. It's not quite the same, is it? It's your heritage, isn't it, Bill? And because it's your heritage, nobody has a right
being American
to dump on you for it. No, Bill, you already told me your heritage is Czechoslovakian.
I'm no more Czechoslovakian than the man in the moon.
Oh, I appreciate that, Bill, but you know what your heritage is, and you have a reasonable degree of pride in it, too, don't you, Bill?
No, I don't. Like
Oh,
I
you're
said, I don't
ashamed
even
of
know
being
nothing about
Czechoslovakian,
him.
Bill?
Give a care less.
Bill, are you ashamed of being Czechoslovakian? In heritage? Are you ashamed of that?
But that's the whole
Are you
point.
ashamed of that, Bill? Yes or no?
I never.
Are you
even gave
ashamed
a
of it,
thought.
Bill? Yes or no?
Am I ashamed of it?
Yeah.
No.
You're not ashamed of it.
No.
So you're kind of proud of it.
No.
Oh. You're just out there in left field, wandering around, not knowing what's inside your head or what's inside your
I don't have
heart.
anything more in common with the Czechoslovakian people than these people got with Africans.
That's right, Bill. Precisely. Exactly. And so what possible justification is there for using slurs concerning a person's heritage when there's no connection anyway? Right, Bill?
Maybe he was wrong in what he said.
Maybe he was wrong, Bill?
Maybe.
Maybe, I see. Maybe he was wrong. Under what possible circumstances, Bill, could he have been right?
Well, maybe he was pissed off.
Oh, so that would make it okay.
A lot of times people say things when they're mad that they don't mean.
Uh-huh.
Why don't they just try being normal human beings? They wouldn't have all this crap coming down.
What would you know about being a normal human being? Paul in Clearwater, you're on the air, WFLA.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Paul.
I'm a citizen of Earth. I'm an American. I'm a Texan, and I'm a German.
Are you calling up to dump on somebody with your bigoted remarks?
With my bigoted remark?
Yeah.
Well, I feel that.
Are you calling up to dump on somebody?
Yeah, I'm calling up to dump on. I'm calling up to dump on. I think we should all just get a gun and just start killing each other, and the last one left is the master race. How's that? That's a damn good idea. Nobody's going to get along with anybody. People just can't. And since people have been alive, they haven't learned how to live together. So we should just all start killing each other. Last one left wins. Good idea?
Whatever you say, Paul. Steve in Newport Richie, I guess that is. I don't know. Port Tampa, I take that back. Steve in Port Tampa.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
Hey, you fat slob. Seems to me you ain't nothing but a nigger lover. You know what I mean?
What, are you a nigger hater, Steve? 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 I guess he is. Don't be ashamed of your hatred. Don't be ashamed of your prejudice. Don't be ashamed of your bigotry. You've got the remainder of this program to just let it air. Because I can only assume that's where you're coming from. In the first 40 minutes, you showed no interest whatsoever in standing up for what is right and proper. So therefore, I can only assume that you're not in the least bit interested in what is right and proper. And so therefore, I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here pulling teeth trying to find a handful of you to stand up for other people. No, I want you to get down in the gutter from which you live, from which you came from, and be as ugly as you can possibly be. I mean, why kid anybody, huh? Why kid anybody? You're not ashamed of your hatred, are you? Well, if you're not ashamed of it, then bring it forward.
Stay with a
Shut up, jerk, and I'll tell you what the situation is unless you're not interested in hearing it.
I'm interested, but there you go.
Well, then keep quiet and I'll tell you. Well, I'll tell you while you sit there and listen without the benefit of response. The situation is thus. Firing is mandatory unless there is a mitigating circumstance. And if there is a mitigating circumstance, then the policy calls for a 15-day without pay suspension. The situation is thus. The complaint was filed. It was investigated. A letter of reprimand was put into the officer's file. The matter was brought to the mayor's attention. She investigated, and 5 days later determined that a suspension was not in order, that there were no mitigating circumstances, that the only other alternative available to her was to dismiss him. Bob in Temple Terrace, you're on the air at WFLA.
Yeah, I just want to dump on all the niggers that are out there.
Yeah?
It don't really matter if they're white, Puerto Rican, green, purple, it don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
We're all the same. We're all human beings. It just don't matter. I don't see why anybody can call somebody else a nigger.
Well, then I guess you're not listening to the show either. Don in Seminole. Don, you're on the air, WFLA.
You're wrong about what happened.
Yeah.
And Sandy Freedman, the mayor, overreacted to the situation completely. It's just...
Oh, so anybody should have to put up with being talked to like that, huh?
You probably...
So anybody should have to put up with being insulted like that, huh?
Pardon me?
Well, if you'd shut up, you would have heard what I said.
There you go, insulting me.
Yeah, insulting you because also you're lying about who you are. Unless you were lying the first time you called a few minutes ago.
I didn't finish my conversation with you.
Yes, you did. 99. What's the matter, bigots? Are you afraid? Are you ashamed? I mean, if you want to try to insult me, then I'm going to talk back. No, this is an open forum for your hatred of other people. Except, of course, unless you try to insult me, then you are going to have to put up with a response. But you've got the rest of the program. I mean, you clearly demonstrated in the first 40 minutes of this program that you people do not wish to stand up for decency. So therefore, I will assume that the overwhelming majority of you are bigots. And therefore, we will assume that if you're afraid to come forward with your bigotry, that you're ashamed of it. And if it takes 2 hours of silence to demonstrate what cowards you are, then it will be 2 hours of silence. It doesn't make a damned bit of difference to me because I'm thoroughly disgusted. Absolutely thoroughly disgusted. A woman, the mayor of Tampa, has taken a strong, courageous stand. And there's hardly anybody in the community willing to back her up. What she has received for her efforts is criticism and indifference. So be it. If we share this community with a bunch of spineless pigs, then so be it. But there will be no hiding it. And if it takes a tirade to make you come forward to defend this woman and her courageous stand, then your defense just doesn't count. If you have to be reminded, if you have to be browbeaten as to what a decent thing this woman did, then it just doesn't count. Well, if you hate blacks, if you hate yourself, I don't care. At least have the courage to admit it. You have the phone numbers, I believe. As a matter of fact, I'm confident that you do. And I'll wait. I am incredibly patient. Larry in St. Petersburg. Larry, you're on the air at WFLA. Let it pour.
Okay, I have one problem with people. Yes, good afternoon. I have one problem with people. And that's the gay community.
Well, apparently you have two problems. You're too stupid to turn down your radio. Dan in Tampa, you're on the air at WFLA. Go ahead, Dan. Let it pour, baby.
Spook. Spook.
99. Nothing but hate for the remainder of the program. Just let it pour forward. But don't be so stupid as to sit there and listen to yourself on the radio because you won't get a chance to let it pour forward. Call up a friend and have him tape it for you. You can't listen to yourself. There's a delay. Ah, too bad. I know life is full of disappointments, huh? after the hour of 1 o'clock. Welcome back. It is a Thursday, May the 19th, 1988, second hour. If you're just joining us, this is what has happened so far. I opened up the program with about 10 or 15 minutes worth of remarks concerning an incident going on in Tampa. An incident involving a police officer, Officer Glass, who was fired by Mayor Sandy Freedman for sexist and racist remarks, clearly in violation of city policy. Frankly, a policy that should be in effect in every city in the country, but it isn't. It is in Tampa, though. The mayor has taken a tremendous amount of heat for it, has been insulted for it, and has received damned little public support. And in essence, I literally encouraged people to call up and support a courageous stand on the part of the mayor. Got maybe 3, possibly 4, along with some people who said, well, we only call her a nigger bitch, which isn't true anyway, but besides, you only call her a nigger bitch, so what? So with the dearth of support in the first 40 minutes of this program, I have to assume, and I will assume, I do assume, that the overwhelming majority of the good citizens in Tampa and Tampa Bay stand four square with Officer Glass and think that it is absolutely fine and hunky-dory to make the most crude remarks. Not for humor, not for spice, not for effect, but simply to be demeaning to another human being, to be spiteful. And if that's what the attitude is, then so be it. I'll be damned if I'm going to try to hide it. I'll be damned if I'm going to pretend it is not the attitude in this community. I will do everything in my power, to ensure that anybody listening to this program comes away with a right attitude. Because if you have to be cajoled, if you have to be hit over the head, if you have to be kicked in the ass to stand up and support this policy, then I fail to see how you're any different than Glass or any of the other idiots that have called this program this afternoon. Now, if that offends you, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry if you're offended, but that's too bad. So we are devoting the rest of this program to people who are not ashamed of their bigotry. We are devoting the rest of this program this afternoon to people who are not too cowardly to come forward with it. It's a little bit too late to stand up for Mayor Sandy. So if you're on hold for that purpose, don't waste your time. You might as well hang up now. Because this program is devoted to the people who think there is nothing wrong with making sexist remarks, who think there is nothing wrong with making racially prejudiced remarks intended to hurt other people, intended to humiliate other people. This is their show. What the hell, it's their community. Vicky in Tampa, you're on the air, WFLA. Play. Marty in Sarasota. Marty, you're on the air, WFLA.
Hello, I'd like to talk about, I'm in Sarasota, and I used to live in Newtown, a black community here, and I'm white, and a couple niggers ripped off my bikes to sell rock cocaine, and I think rock cocaine is why these black people are really upsetting me over this.
Why'd you change your tune from niggers to black people, Marty? What?
Well,
don't you want to sound like what you are?
I think they need a slur in their name.
Uh-huh.
I think they've degraded themselves to the point living on welfare. I'm not a bigot totally, but it's just gotten to the point where, what can you do? I mean, they earn their name. They earn the right to be put down. And if they don't like it, they should go back to Africa. And I guess that's all I should say, because you're not going to talk to me except for one thing more. This is a public service message from the suicidal human race. Whip it. Whip the world. Whip the world. Whip it out. Whip it down. Thank you.
Carl in Tampa. Carl, you're on the air, WFLA.
This is really interesting. I don't exactly understand the terminology when you say bigot. I personally am very upset about the situation and the way that it seems like there's been a role reversal.
Carl, I have made myself crystal clear as to what this program is all about today, have I not?
Yes, sir, and I am very much upset with the black community in general. And yes, I am, I guess, what you would term to be a bigot. But I prefer to call myself a realist. I look at it from the rationalization that the majority of them, and that's overgeneralizing, yes, but the majority of them are of no value to society in general and do nothing, and do rip off bicycles and just sell crack cocaine and sit on the, or at least that is to say the youth. I have to drive through it every day to get here to work. And I'm rather upset about it myself. And if the black officer is very upset about being called that, well, then perhaps she should do something about her getting her own affairs in order as far as her own house is concerned. You say there's supposed to be a pride in your race. Well, if you're so proud of it, then why, pray tell, don't you do something about it?
I don't think I've ever suggested pride in race, Carl.
Well, earlier you were speaking with the man about being Czechoslovakian, and you were saying that perhaps he should defend his own, and you were referring to how they would do the same. Well, and they being the black community. If the black community is so upset about the way things are, then perhaps they should get their own house in order and stop always running to the NAACP and going, oh, he said something about me, and getting someone fired over it. I mean, big deal. I take criticism all the time in my job, whether it be constructive or not. I have to deal with it.
You constantly put up with racial and sexist remarks in your job.
Well, I have to deal with, well, not necessarily those.
By public employees, by people that you pay.
Yes.
You constantly put up with this in your job.
No, I don't.
Oh.
I will say that honestly, I do not. But if you are a public servant and you are out on the streets, you have to understand that at one time or another you are going to come across people who are not going to be...
like police officers.
Police officer. You mean the other police officer?
Yeah.
Well, in that case, again, I think that he should be reprimanded, but as far as a job being taken away from him over it, that's totally ridiculous.
It's the city's policy.
But then the policy should be changed. Again, that would be us getting our own house.
So you think it is perfectly fine for public employees to just walk around insulting the people that they work for?
No, I don't believe that that's the case, but that can be straightened out. I mean, the person could have been reprimanded, and then again, if he had done it again, well, then he would always...
How about if it wasn't the first time?
It wasn't the first time.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, well, in that case, I am in total agreement.
Oh.
But I am definitely upset with the black community, and I'm also upset with other minorities who seem to get, protectionist type laws drawn up in their favor. I mean, we don't, as an Anglo-Saxon male, I have had very few job opportunities since I've gotten out of high school. I find myself to be caught in this great bureaucratic malaise that was created by the left during the 70s, or the late 60s and the 70s. I mean, I am really trapped, and I have a legitimate bitch. And if it comes out in... How
are you trapped, Carl?
I'm trapped in that certain doors have been slammed to me, and I haven't gotten certain grants and other things, which I wouldn't want to go into all the details right now because you really don't have time to hear about it. But
grants have been cut by the Reagan administration, not by the liberal left in the 60s and 70s.
No. The grants which I went for were all, I was turned down mainly because of other people getting them ahead of me. I was a merit scholar, and I lost that because of... I lost the grant because it was cut, but it was cut because of other social funding programs needed to be funded. And I didn't really see the need for those programs, but again, the left did. And I don't see that as a problem of the Reagan administration. I see that as a problem of the left not being able to get its house in order. I mean, there are certain things which need to be funded. I agree. There are mothers who can't take care of their children and things like that, but it's gotten totally out of hand. We can't just keep...
What percentage of that black community that you refer to is on welfare? Do you have any idea?
I really don't know, sir.
We'll take a guess. Give me your best guess.
Well, from where I come in Plant City, I can tell you for sure it's at least 50%.
Uh-huh.
So and that is no lie. That is.
So you believe in your heart that 50% of the black community is on welfare?
I'm not sure about the rest of the planet or, the rest of the country in general, but I know from a fact that in that area, yes, they are.
Do blacks constitute the majority of people on welfare, Carl?
Again, I'm not sure as a
What do you
nation
think?
as a whole.
What do you think?
I surmise they probably do. I mean, just from the limited exposure that I've had in the area that I came from. But again, I'm drawing from a pool of knowledge of what I know, just as you do. And if you do know that is not the case, well, then that is not the case.
It isn't. It's not even close.
But in the case of the area that I came from, it is the case. And again, that's why I have a legitimate bitch in my eyes. Oh, listen, I have to let you go, Bob. I got a call coming in. Thank you very much.
It's Flo. Don't hide it. Don't hide it. Doesn't mean it's not real. No, we know you're there. We know where you're coming from. What a golden opportunity to share your beliefs, to share your fantasies with the rest of the community. The entire remainder of the program devoted to people that maybe the left would call bigots. People who dislike people of color, people who dislike women, people who dislike people who are just different. It's your show today. 100% your show today. Sid in Tampa. Sid, you're on the air, WFLA.
Bob?
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, I think I'd like to express some bigotry. I'd like to tell you why I'm a little upset with the blacks. I just got out of the service myself, and I had to deal with a lot of blacks. And maybe I could have more feeling for them if I wasn't so young. I didn't grow up when they were oppressed and when they were, put down. I've only grown up with these chips on their shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I was in the military, and I had to deal with all that. So, I didn't like it. Then when I come back to Tampa, I wanted to get in the police department. I happened to apply with a good friend of mine who happens to be Spanish. We applied on the same day, took the same test. I did better on the test than him. Now, a week ago, he got a letter back saying to come in for an interview, and I got a letter saying, thank you for my time, but I'm not needed. That makes me a little upset. All these blacks, they cry about how they don't get equal rights, And right now, the Tampa Police Department, I believe, I'm not sure, but I think they have a policy where they're hiring minorities over white people, over the majorities. And I think hiring a minority over a white person is just as bad as hiring a white person over a minority. Do you think that is true?
Do I think what's true?
Do you think that's true about the police department having pressure put on them to hire minorities?
No, I know it's true.
Okay.
It's not a matter of thinking. I know it's true.
All right, well, that's what I think is unfair.
It's to correct years and years and years of just automatically excluding anyone who was black who applied.
Well,
it's to try to achieve some degree of racial balance in the police department.
I don't think that will make up for it. Why can't they just hire the best man for the job? That's what I don't understand. If I'm more qualified than a black man, I think I should be hired. It is unfair. It is unfair that they...
Well, as soon as racial balance is achieved, then that's the way it will be again.
That makes sense. All right, let me ask you one more question before I let you go. If it would have been a black man that put a white man down, do you think that same black man would have got fired?
It's the city's policy.
Huh. I don't know. It's every day. Every time I say something about a black person, I have to come out with this. Well, I'm not prejudiced, but I think blacks are, everyone says it. Everyone on TV says it. Everyone everywhere says it. But I've never once heard a black man say, well, I'm not prejudiced, but I think the whites are, I think we're trying to put them up, but it's making me prejudiced as hell. Anyway, thanks for your time, Bob.
By the way, you said you grew up when black people weren't oppressed?
I never saw black people openly oppressed. No, I didn't, Bob.
Are you aware of the fact that the black unemployment rate is considerably higher than the white unemployment rate?
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Do you know how the unemployment rate is calculated? It's by people looking for jobs. They're the only ones counted as unemployed. People looking for jobs.
Do you know the ratio of blacks in prisons to whites in prison?
Yeah, I do.
What do you think about that?
Breaks my heart.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
I'm with the Tampa.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
I'm with the Tampa PD. I had a problem with a black supervisor calling me names. I couldn't do anything right for the man. I took
what kind of names?
Get out of that area, Ali. supervision. That's all I got. I'm between blacks, whites, reds, greens, or anything else, but it's wrong. This is blown out of proportion. I took it there. What did I get? I didn't get a thing.
When was that, Jack?
Pardon me?
When was this?
This was less than 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Less than 3 months ago, and they didn't do anything about it. And then this comes up, and it irks me.
Well, I beg your pardon. They didn't do anything about this either.
Well, they obviously did.
No, I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon, Jack. The police department did not do anything about it. The police department issued a letter of reprimand where it was clearly not the policy.
What I'm saying is do you think Mayor Freedman would have protected me?
Yes, I do, Jack, had you pursued it.
No.
But you didn't pursue it out. You did not apparently pursue it outside of the police department, Jack.
Okay. Well,
did you?
I did everything I possibly could. I had a lawyer working on it. It went as far as it could go, and I could go nowhere else.
Did you ever think of the newspaper, Jack?
I tried everything. Okay, no, I didn't put it in the newspaper because I'd lose my job.
Okay? No, you wouldn't, Jack. You wouldn't lose your job.
My job anyway for talking. So I'm just letting you know what happened. I'll talk to you personally some other time. Thank you.
Charles in St. Petersburg. Charles, you're on the air at WFLA. Let's do that and that. Charles, you're on the air. Yes, no?
Okay, I wanted to say something in defense of the fellow that he's a policeman in Tampa. I think he's just misdirecting his comments to the wrong person. He should direct them to Sandy Freedman. You know, that Jew bitch is, she's just typical of what's going to happen in this country with this genocide treaty and hate laws. This is the tip of the iceberg. Our whole Bill of Rights is gone, a right to say anything.
When did you ever have the right to say derogatory things to someone?
Well, up to recent times we have, but
up to recent times you had the right to say derogatory things.
Let me say what I wanted. I thought you were going to let us bigots talk. Sandy Freedman wants to dedicate menorahs, jack the taxes up sky high.
How does she want to dedicate menorahs?
Why doesn't Sandy Freedman
How does she want to dedicate menorahs? How does she want to dedicate menorahs? How does she want to dedicate menorahs? You can't be heard, Jack. I'm sorry.
I can understand, Bob.
Sorry, Jack. You can't be heard until you answer my question.
It's a real Jew area of Philadelphia.
No, it isn't, Charles.
I can understand you, Bob.
Jack.
Your pals all wore yarmulkes, didn't they? Real rich Jews.
No, I'm sorry. There were 2 Jewish families in the entire town.
Like Reagan associated with, just like Margie Thatcher in London. She represents a Finchley district in London, the Borough of Finchley. Yeah, no wonder the type of people you associated, Thatcher and Reagan. No wonder you love Jews.
Leroy in Tampa. Leroy, you're on the air.
Hey, we've been working in this warehouse for 5 years, and we've always been turned on to WFLA. And the foreman, he just come out and snatched the whole radio out.
Don in Tampa, you're on the air at WFLA.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I have one personal pet peeve with people. When anybody starts a conversation by saying, I'm not prejudiced, but they're lying. And that's all I wanted to say. If you say, I'm not prejudiced...
So tell me about your prejudices.
I have a problem with people who are bigots.
Don apparently also can't follow directions very well. Didn't you get them the first time? 9. Don in St. Petersburg, you're on the air at WFLA.
Hey, you're kind of testy this afternoon, Bob. I'll tell you what, I want to talk to you about something that's very important to me, and I don't know if it is to other people too, but it's about these Hispanics changing, having large cities becoming bilingual. I think that's disgusting. I think that if they want to be Americans, then what they ought to do is to develop the American way, and not to take up my time and other people's time trying to understand Spanish. Bob, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
No comment?
I'm not here to comment, unless you're spreading lies or insulting me.
Okay, Bob. Well, anyway, I just wanted to get that little point across.
Dan in St. Petersburg. Dan, you're on the air at WFLA.
Well, Bob, since you believe in reverse discrimination, then I guess you're going to quit your job and hire a minority then, huh?
I don't hire or fire.
Well, then I think maybe the administration should do that, huh?
I don't know. Don't you know what you think?
I know exactly what I'm saying.
Well, what are you asking me? Why are you asking me? What do you think?
Well, because I'm asking your opinion. That's what you're there for, isn't it?
No.
All right.
Chuck in Tampa. Chuck, you're on the air at WFLA.
Hello, Bob.
Yeah.
Bob, I think that you're as prejudiced as anybody there is, just like everybody else.
I've admitted to my prejudices, Chuck. I have no problem with
you
them.
don't listen to anything like the policeman called in and he said, and right away you just naturally took it that
everybody else does, Chuck.
Let me tell you something. Part of my family is intermarried to blacks. Let me tell you, when we have family get-together, they're just as goddamn prejudiced as anybody.
Mm-hmm.
They're more prejudiced, a lot of them. They go around with hate in their heart. Wasn't me. I'm not old enough to have enslaved anybody or anything like that. Maybe our ancestors did. But by God, I don't have to carry their goddamn... That's and reason so many of them are unemployed because they ain't going to work about half the time. They don't want to work. If they wanted to work, they'd get a job. And it's true. If you happen to work for the Tampa Police Department or something where there was more than just one person that sat down there in your studio, your butt would be on the line, too, by a minority. And I'd like to see how you would like it.
What was that? You want to run that past me again?
Huh?
Want to run that past me again?
Yeah, I'd say if you happen to work at a place that, say, hired 70, 100, 200 people, and you had to come up against the minority thing, if you were best for the job, you might not be sitting where you're sitting today.
Really?
That's right. Because it isn't always the best that get hired anymore, and I'm damn tired of hearing all their bull about they don't have this, they don't have that. It's true. There is bigotry. I feel bad about the people that have that in their hearts. Let me tell you something. They're bigots, too, and if you don't think so, you go deal with some of them. I do. I deal with them every day. And let me tell you something. Some of them won't even give you the time of day. You can say hello to them. They won't even give you the time of day. Hey, and I ain't never done nothing to them, and I'm nice to them. Don't tell me it's all one way. And as far as I'm concerned, Sandy Freedman ought to let the man run the job that she put in charge. If she wants to run everything, then by God, she ought to get rid of the people that are under her. The guy's wrong with what he did. Damn sure don't deserve to be fired for it.
It's the city's policy.
She ought to mind her own damn
business. The city's policy.
Huh?
It is the city's published policy.
The city's policy. Is it the city's policy to take up for the black man, for the white man when he has a problem?
I believe it does.
It's slated. It's one way. Now, if you're living in the century that you're living in the 1980s, and you don't see that, you got a problem.
How does the city of Tampa fail to uphold the rights of white people?
When they refuse to take a policeman, go to bat for a white person the same as they would for a black. When you have 9 or 10 of them on a union on the black part, say, well, I'm going to drop out of the union, when they don't even realize that a union's there to help everybody. If they can't understand the union, they got a problem. And they ought to drop out of it. They don't need a union.
Are you aware of the fact the union just a little over a week ago called for the dismissal of a black Hillsborough County Sheriff's officer?
Their job, and I think that's
for making racist remarks?
And the union's being fair about this, too. Just as fair as they can be.
I see.
I'm so damn tired of everybody. You go out here and try to go to work for the airport, or you try to get a halfway decent job in Tampa, and first thing you got to go up against is that, and you got 9 million of them living down. Hey, let me tell you something.
9 million
of
them.
Their own houses. You ever been through their projects? You ever see how they live? You ever see, you got to have a want to in this life. The Chinese pulled themselves out, and a lot of other people have. You got to have something in your heart to want to do better.
The Chinese pulled themselves out?
Jackson says, you've got to have something inside you if you want to go somewhere. They ain't no more oppressed than the Cubans or anybody else. They got just as fat a chance as anybody in this world. It's a bunch of hogwash, and I'm getting damn tired of you and everybody else shoving it down everybody's throat. If you lived out in the real world, then you'd find out what it's all about.
What kind of world do you think I live in, Chuck?
I think that you live in a world where you go down there and talk on the radio. Hey, tell you what, I hate to ever see you leave because I think it's the best thing that ever happened to Tampa, to be honest with you. I don't care whether you're my friend or whether you aren't. But I'll tell you one thing. If you think black people ain't prejudiced, son, you better check it out. They're as prejudiced and just as
I don't believe, Chuck, I've ever said they weren't.
And as hateful.
Chuck, I don't believe I've ever said they weren't.
They're just as hateful and as mean, a lot of them. And let me tell you something. Some of them are and probably 3/4 of them are the nicest people I ever met. But by God, they're just like the whites, and they're more prejudiced in many ways. They don't want nothing to do with you. You believe so? You better check it out. Hey, somebody said they couldn't move our neighborhoods. I don't give a shit if they move my neighborhood. If they want to move my neighborhood, fine. I can't move in their neighborhood, though. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, why can't you, Chuck?
Same reason you can't, by God. You wouldn't own a goddamn thing. It'd all be carried off, or you'd be killed. Go try. Go try to live in their neighborhood. Go try to live their way.
How do they live, Chuck?
Hey, you drive through Tampa and see how they live. And offer one of them a job for $4 or $5 an hour. And there's a many a white that has to start out and work at $4 or $5 an hour. Offer a lot of them that type of job. See if they work. Just see if they work. They don't want to work. A lot of them just don't want to work, and then a lot of them are the best. A lot of them work their tail off, just like white people. They're just like us, exactly. Except you got a lot of them that want to go around with their damn tail between their legs, acting like the society owes them a living. And Mayor Sandy Freedman ought to keep her nose where it ought to be and let the police chief and the police department run their business. And the union's a union. If them black people don't want the union, let them get out. They can get clear the hell out of the police department, as far as I'm concerned.
I thought Mayor Sandy Freedman was the chief executive officer of the entire city.
Let me ask you
I thought that the police chief worked for her.
Authority. She can't delegate authority. She can't take the. She don't know how to put people in. If she wants to do something, let her fire the police chief. She don't need to fire this guy. Let me tell you something. There's racial slurs that go on every day.
Well, in that case, shouldn't both be fired?
Both ways.
In that case, shouldn't both be fired? The offender as well as the person who didn't enforce the policy.
You want to know something? She should have thought about the problems that she was going to cause over this deal to even start with. Don't tell me she did, because she didn't. She's not that smart.
Oh.
She should have known that she was getting into union. You don't get into any union's affairs. She should be able to put people in the job that can run the job. If she hasn't got any more better wisdom, and if she don't believe in the people that she puts in, by God, then why don't she just take charge of the whole damn thing? Why don't she just run it right from her office?
I think that's what she did, Chuck.
No, I think that's what she is going to do, too. And I think the Tampa...
So you're suggesting she do what she did, but you're condemning her for doing it.
You're damn right, because she's got people under her that run it. Hey, let me tell you, the guy was wrong. Damn sure was. I'll tell you right flat out, he was wrong. You don't go around saying stuff like that. But by God, she...
Why don't you, Chuck?
Her nose in her business. And let me tell you...
Why don't you go around saying stuff like that, Chuck?
I'd like to give you, what used to be an unbiased opinion. I'm from New York, and I moved down here a little while ago. Just give you a little insight on this. And I come from a predominantly white neighborhood, so I really didn't have that much of a, contact with blacks. But, I always got the racial slurs, when you talk about each other when you don't know them personally, everybody calls everybody names. But when I got down here, I started working for a rent-to-own company, which deals with, predominantly with blacks. About 90% are blacks, and I'm an account manager, so I have to deal with them, one-on-one. I have to go into, the one guy called you earlier and talked about Newtown in Sarasota. I've had to go in there and deal with people, and, the things that really bothers me that has been confirmed from the things that I believed when I was up north. For one thing, they say they're victims of society. Well, I find that hard to believe. This is America, This is the land of opportunity, the land to do anything you want. And for them to say that we're holding them back is to me, is garbage. I don't believe they're victims of society. I believe they're victims of themselves.
How much would you rent a 19-inch color TV RCA to me for a month?
A month?
Yeah.
19-inch, $44.
For how many months before I own it?
That depends really on which one you take.
Top of the line.
Top of the line?
Yeah, one that would cost me about $600 to go out and buy.
One that would cost you $6?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not really totally sure.
18 months?
Because I don't really get involved in that part. Like I said, I'm the account manager. I just make sure that the money is paid.
About 18 months, right?
I wouldn't say that much. I'd say probably 12.
12 months.
Uh-huh.
So you'd rent it to me and let me have it for less than retail?
Less than retail?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Well, of course not.
I realize where you're getting at. The price is marked up, but you're dealing with people who normally couldn't get anything, anywhere else. So we have that market. They can't go into a store and say, "Will you finance me?" Because their credit is tore up for some reason. I don't really know that, but that's the reason why they're dealing with us. So we have a product, and we were able to get a little more out of it because we're taking a bigger risk than that.
I've been in the business. It's a little more than a little more. It's a hell of a lot more.
Yes, but you're taking a bigger risk.
Yeah, I know. I used to rent TVs and stereos to sailors in Norfolk, Virginia. Outrageous markups, 300%, 400%, 500%.
And I know you could use the claim that we're taking advantage of or whatever, but at any rate, like I said, they've confirmed everything that I've heard up north. I go through there and I have the van window rolled down, and the first thing that happens when I stop at a light is I've got 3 of them on each side of me throwing drugs in the car, basically, and asking, hey, but, and I'm like rolling the windows up with their hands in the windows. Give me a break. Also, they're saying that we're prejudiced against them. I'm the kind of man that would give anybody a fair shake. Just because a man's black is not, reason.
Can you remember the last time a major drug kingpin was arrested and tried in this country who was black?
No, I really can't. And you have a point there. But without the see, there's one for every one of him, for every one of the kingpins. I believe there's thousands and thousands of the little men, And if you would just, you have to take care of the kingpins. But the police down here, I don't see how they can't see this stuff going on, for one thing, and that tears me up. That bothers me. How can this go on and they're not seeing this? They're not seeing these guys come up to a van with this stuff in their hands, and they're not doing anything about it.
Are the police in Sarasota predominantly white or black?
I really couldn't tell you that. I know just...
Sure you could, John. They're predominantly white.
They are?
Yes.
I know they got...
So I find it rather strange that you're not calling up to denigrate the white race for their role in drugs and crime. Since they are the white policemen, so therefore, if because black people are involved in drugs and crime, then black people are bad. Well, if white people are aware of this and look the other way, then they must even be worse, wouldn't you think?
Yeah. I wouldn't say worse, but I think they're just as guilty as the people that are...
So therefore, all white people should be slurred because of the actions of some white people?
No.
Then why should all black people be slurred for the actions of some black people?
Well, I'm not saying all, but I'm saying a lot of them, the majority of the people down here that I deal with give, the majority of them are real wrong, I think. The majority of blacks in this community down here that he was talking about in Newtown are real wrong.
How are they real wrong, John?
Well, for one thing, the drugs, okay? And another thing, when I go in there, they're prejudiced against me. There's not a day that I go in there that I don't get called honky or get my life threatened or, some things like this, which is garbage. And when they call me honky, I don't care. I'm white. I'm proud of it. Just like if I was black, I'd be proud of that. But, I get it from that side.
Why are you proud of something over which you have utterly no control whatsoever? And I can well understand if you had gotten your doctorate and you worked your way through school washing dishes, why you'd be proud of that. Mm-hmm. I could well understand why if you had invented a cure for cancer, you'd be proud of that. I don't quite understand why you're proud of something over which you had no control.
Well, I guess you had me there, but it's just a feeling. I'm proud to be white.
See, I don't understand black people who are proud to be black either. I understand black people who have accomplished something and are proud of it. That I well understand. But I don't understand racial pride, just as I don't understand racial bigotry.
Right. Well, I guess it's just like you know, it's not really on the same line because I have control over being an American, but I am proud to be an American. But like you said, I do have control over that. But I'm proud because I'm white, I'm proud because I'm American, and I'm proud that I'm living in America where I have the opportunity to do anything I want. And so do they. Anything. This is America. And it's, you know, they've got role models that have showed them that it can be done. And for them just to be sitting back over there on welfare, and another thing that bothers me, I drive through there, and they're all on welfare. They can't get in this housing unless they're on welfare. But there's Cadillacs in there, there's BMWs, there's cars that I can't even afford. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Something is not kosher in Denmark. Have you ever seen anything like that? Have you drove through the projects and seen that?
I've driven through projects, John.
Have you seen that?
Yes.
I don't know how it is up there, but it's that way here.
Yeah, I've seen expensive cars in bad neighborhoods, John.
Well, I'm not talking about just a bad neighborhood where they own their own property. I'm talking about welfare. I'm talking about the housing that is funded by the government that we pay for out of our taxes. To go through there and see them in cars that I can't even afford.
Do you have any idea what percentage of the black population is on welfare, John?
Are you talking about what percentage as...
What percentage of the black population is on welfare? Do you have any idea? Your best guess.
I know this is going to sound bad, but I'm going to say about 65% of the people that are on welfare are black. So I'm going to say about another 25 is Hispanics, and the rest are white. Is that anywhere close?
Nowhere's near it.
Nowhere near it? Is it?
Nowhere's near it.
Could you tell me just for my own reference?
Approximately 20% of the black people in this country are on welfare.
Uh-huh.
Of those, the overwhelming majority are children.
Okay.
The majority of people on welfare in this country are white.
Okay, is that 20% of the black population or 20% of the American population?
20% of the American black population.
Really?
Yes, and the majority of people on welfare are white, neither Hispanic nor black.
Okay, well that's...
but what we might refer to as Anglos.
Okay, that's one up on me. Another thing I'd like to I'll bring out in the light. What would happen if, say, we had an all-whitey TV channel? Do you think some sparks would fly over that?
We do, John. We've had them for years. I must run along. Be good. Vicky, or make that Vic. I apologize. Vic in Palm Harbor. Vic, you're on the air, WFLA.
Vicky's fine, Bob. First, to relate to a point you made about why there aren't any black people being prosecuted or black top pins being prosecuted for drugs. Most of the Colombians and the people in South America aren't black.
Most of the people that bring drugs into this country are Anglo-Saxons.
That's true. And that's why the people who are putting up the money in that business, who are white or Spanish or Hispanic, are the ones who are controlling it, and therefore the ones that end up getting prosecuted. But the point I wanted to make is about the bigotry. You know, I was recently over in Hillsborough County sitting in a courtroom. A friend of mine's son had been asked to come in regarding some child support. There were 29 cases that came up in front of this woman judge. And I don't want to say that the judge was bigoted, but 24 of the people happened to be black or Hispanic. None of them were working. All of them were behind in their payments. All of them were dismissed. The 5 white working men who were behind, some as much as $1,200, but who were working and attempting to get caught up, all were given 5 months and 29 days. And the lady judge smiled down at the one guy as he left and said, bye-bye. Now, if I were to walk out of that courtroom and run into you, Lassiter, and say, you know, I just saw 25 black Hispanics get let go and 5 white guys go to jail, that is the fact. But you'd call me a bigot.
No, I wouldn't call you a bigot. I'd ask you for some details. And from the details that you gave me, how the hell can you possibly put somebody in jail for not paying for something when he doesn't have a job?
The point is, why would you put somebody in jail who has a job and who is working and trying to make the payments?
Because the person without the job has an excuse. The person with the job is obviously shirking his responsibility.
Well, of the 5 people that she gave 5 months and 29 days to, one had been in an automobile accident and got 3 weeks behind. One had gone in the Army to make up his back payments.
Nobody goes to jail for 6 months for being 3 weeks behind in their child support payments.
5 months and 29 days.
No, Vic, I don't buy it.
I talked to the guy personally.
You can't even get into court that fast, Vic.
Well, they got him in.
Right.
The whole point being the bigotry comes from the system, from people like yourself And judges like this lady who had probably had a bad experience in her getting her child support, but she allowed the 24 black and Hispanic people to walk out. You say that they should walk because they don't have a job? The point is, if they don't have a job, let them go get a job. If you didn't have a job tomorrow, Lassiter, I think you could find a job someplace and pay your child support. And if you couldn't, well, maybe jail would be the best place for you. But to discriminate against somebody because he's working or not working, it apparently doesn't hit you in the face that the discrimination there was done on basis of race rather than on the basis of ability to pay. Because the 5 people who had ability and were trying were given 5 years and 29 days. The 24 people, by a white woman judge, were allowed to leave and walk out of the courtroom scot-free. End of story. That makes me a bigot. But the bottom line is, when the facts hit you in the face, Lassiter, you call somebody a bigot because you want to develop your ratings. And I understand you have a good show, and I love.
Don't you ever dare call this program again. Don't you ever dare suggest that my heartfelt feelings have anything to do with ratings. And I again repeat, Vic, you can't even get anybody in court within 3 weeks. Joanne, what about people who pick on sex? Are they sick too?
Who pick on... No.
Oh, they're not? Bye-bye, sickie. Elaine.
Yeah. Oh, he told me before the news. Okay, he got me in. I just want to ask you a question about Jimmy the Greek. Jimmy the Greek was fired because he made some snide remarks, racial remarks, I think. Am I correct on that?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I know a gentleman on your station, I imagine you know him too, who called the President of the United States a liar and a murderer. Whatever happened to him? Was he...
He just got a new contract. Remarks concerning the firing of Officer Glass in the racial and sexist remarks case in Tampa. Very clear-cut case. Very clear-cut case. I found it extraordinary that Mayor Freedman has taken so much criticism for this, and I found it extraordinary that there weren't an awful lot of people coming to her defense. Naive child that I am, I assumed it was some kind of an aberration. And so, in essence, I asked for support for the mayor, support for the policy. What I got was some bedraggled old bitch in Clearwater who said something to the effect of, wow, gee, what's so bad about that? Maybe that's what she is, so what? Which made me a little bit distressed, a little bit distraught. During the course of the first 40 minutes, got maybe 2, 3, 4, if I was lucky, lukewarm expressions of support for the policy, expressions of support for the mayor, and about an equal number of people who thought it was an atrocity that a public servant could lose his job for racist and sexist remarks that were not made with any humor. It wasn't a matter of bad taste. There were malicious remarks, uncalled for remarks. And then, voila, thick-headed jerk that I am sometimes, it suddenly dawns on me, my God, well, the reason that there hasn't been any support is because nobody supports it. So what the hell? Let the majority speak out. Because if I sat here for 3 hours pulling teeth, trying to shame people into supporting the policy, into supporting the mayor, then what is accomplished? If people have to be told, if people have to have their arms twisted, then the support just doesn't matter. It doesn't count. So I decided on the spot to devote the remainder of the program from that point on, 2 hours and 20 minutes, to basically people who think it's just fine to denigrate someone else for their race, to denigrate someone else for their sex, that there should be no consequence whatsoever. It's a position that I frankly do not understand, but I see no reason, if it indeed is the sentiment of at least a significant portion of the population and possibly a majority of the population, I see no reason to pretend as though it's not real. I see no reason to pretend as though it does not exist.
Watched the Jeffersons on TV, and numerous times Mr. Jefferson has referred to Mr. Willis as a honky. At no time has Mr. Willis, however, referred to Mr. Jefferson as a nigger. We cannot live in a double standard where we expect some folks...
It's not a double standard. Very, very, very few, if indeed any, white people are deeply offended by the term
I'm
honky.
not offended by that, but the point is...
Well, most black people are deeply offended by the term nigger.
Well, if you'll let me finish, okay? Honky is a derogatory word referred to white people. I am not concerned with comments like that, so I guess it doesn't upset me. But it's the same as calling a black person a nigger. I don't think it should be allowed.
Well, there's also something else that you're conveniently overlooking. George Jefferson, as Archie Bunker was, is a bigot and is portrayed as such.
And
that's the whole purpose. That's the whole purpose of the show.
No one has brought up the fact that that's mentioned on TV. We cannot have the white community
I beg your pardon. I will again explain it to you. The whole purpose of the show is to point out George Jefferson's bigotry, just as the whole purpose of the Archie Bunker show was to point out his bigotry, not to glorify it, but to point it out. To try to do so with a degree of humor so that everyone might understand the absurdity, the stupidity, the futility of bigotry.
I'm not condoning Archie Bunker's behavior by any means.
I didn't suggest that you were. I just find it rather bizarre that you. I just find it rather bizarre that you don't quite understand the point behind George Jefferson.
Sometimes points are made, and they have several meanings besides one.
Oh.
I don't agree that either show should be put on when they degrade a race.
So a program conceived, owned, written, directed, produced by white people is done to denigrate white people.
I don't think that they should be allowed to call each other names. I don't care who's saying it. And if you disagree with that, I'm sorry. I don't think whites should call whites names. I don't think it should call blacks names. I don't think it should be blacks calling blacks names or blacks calling white people names. That's just stupid. And if you're going to get upset about it, there's no humor in it. And as far as TBD is concerned, it's a very hard job to be a police officer. And unfortunately, Jesus was the last person to walk this planet who had no faults. And he's not here, and we're all subject to mistakes. And that cop, yes, he was in poor judgment to have stated that. It's hard to see that they will fire him over that when they have caught a supervisor working an off-duty job 3 times while on duty. And he's not fired. You need the strictness throughout the entire department. In essence, he was stealing. He needed to be fired, but he wasn't.
Well, I guess there isn't a hard, fast rule in the city of Tampa against that. But there is a hard, fast rule in the city of Tampa against racial and sexist remarks. And how one person working overtime, or not overtime, how one person moonlighting at the police department can possibly be compared with a bigot is beyond me, madam.
Sir,
beyond me.
I did not say he was moonlighting.
What station had you been listening to prior to today?
QYK.
May I recommend that you go back to them? Chris and
I must admit that I am a bigot. The biggest problem that I see with your callers is who is the biggest majority of people on welfare. Am I right?
White people are.
That's right. And it's the single...
Well, Chris, everybody is a bigot, myself included, but there's a difference between the people that we've been listening to. They're trying to justify their bigotry.
Right. Well, I'm not
going to work on it.
The biggest group is the single white mothers. It's the honky spinsters that we need to be bigoted against.
I don't know that we need to be bigoted against anyone, Chris.
Well, I'm just trying to make a point. That if you're going to direct your anger, you should at least be semi-educated about it.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Fine.
Listen, in my world, there's 2 kinds of people, okay? There's people and assholes, and that's it. The Constitution, there's one type of people. Therefore, getting back to the mayor, I got to stand with the Mayor Freedman. You can't have people on your law enforcement that fail to see the Constitution. Good God, you got people out there, they're ignorance, Bob, ignorance. But that see this country for what it is. It's a strong country because there's one type of people, Bob. Any response to that?
Thank you, Bo. Let's go to Gene in Tampa. Gene, you're on the air, WFLA.
Hello, Bob. You know, Bob, I don't think the white people are bigoted. I think that black people really have a chip on their shoulder. No matter what is done for them, it's never enough. They'll never be satisfied. And I do think that the mayor was really hasty in her decision.
What has been done for black people, Gene?
I think a lot has been done for one
for example?
Well, they get a good education, which a lot of my relatives couldn't get.
Where do they get this good education, Gene?
They get it from the taxpayers. They get it from foundations, from funds, and none of their own ever die and leave it. Look at the Girard estate up in Philadelphia. Look what happened there, how they broke that will. Now, no one even wants to go there. They messed it up so much. You know that. You from Philadelphia, Bob?
Yeah, I am, Gene.
Are you familiar with the corner of 28th and Tasker?
No, I'm not, Gene, but I am familiar with the Girard will. What did the Girard will say, Gene?
Well, I want to tell you.
What did the Girard will say, Gene?
White male students, right?
Thank you, Gene. That's right.
Okay. Now, hello?
Yeah?
Now, here's what I'm trying to say. If you're familiar with the area of 28th and Tasker, there's quite a few projects there. In those projects, you know what lives in them. Not that I'm saying, but...
Yeah, human beings live in them, Gene.
Now, I want to tell you something. I couldn't come out of my house for them for throwing rocks and bricks. When I lived there when I was a youngster, I came back there when I was older, only because of convenience, transportation. What happened is, when I came back there, that's what I'm saying. You hear everything one side. You don't hear the other side. Now, here's what I'm trying to say. I do nothing to provoke anyone because I don't want to get involved with any of this. But I was putting my car in the parking lot. Two of them passed by. They turned around and said to me, "White pig, trash." I didn't even answer them. Now, if I had ran to the mayor's office, what would she do? She'd say I was a bigoted. There were 6 white fellas killed in the corner there at 28th and Tasker.
Why would the mayor say that you were a bigoted?
Well, take Mayor Freedman. Look what happened there with the well-known baseball player. She came to his defense immediately. She didn't do anything about the officers. She wanted them to apologize to him. Here he is on drugs. He doesn't even know what he's doing. He's getting all that money. He has all that money to waste on drugs. We don't have that kind of money, a lot of us. We don't get the opportunities that he had. He's making a damn good salary, more than any one of my family ever made.
Because he's black or because he throws a baseball very hard and fast?
Well, he does a baseball very hard, but he doesn't appreciate that gift that was given to him, if you can call it that.
Well,
and they get
how should
everything.
he appreciate it, Gene? By not accepting a large salary?
What do you mean?
Well, I'm asking, how should he appreciate it? You say he doesn't appreciate it. How should he appreciate it?
When he can waste it on salary. Why doesn't he put some of that into a fund like the Girard State, like Girard did for black children to get educated?
You sure that he doesn't?
Have any black people given white children an opportunity to be educated from their money?
Gene, are you sure that he doesn't?
I know he doesn't.
Oh, you know exactly what he does with his money.
I know damn right well he doesn't do that, and you do too, Bob.
No, I have no idea what he does with his money, Gene.
You don't, but I do.
Oh. He tells you what he does with it?
I know for a fact what is done. I don't see any foundation like Girard Trust. I don't see that his name on any type of educational program for any of the blacks. Do you?
I don't know, Gene. I don't pay attention to what he does with his money.
Well, I think when you're on a show like this and you're on with this bigoted crap, I think that you should get with it.
I am with it, Gene. I'm very with
Bob.
it. With it enough to sucker you into listening.
You're from Philadelphia. You can't walk the streets of Philadelphia the way conditions have gotten because the politicians...
It's amazing 4 million people do.
Yeah, but they're frightened. And 4 million people, I can tell you friends of mine that have been mugged and mugged and mugged.
Yeah, I've been mugged too, Gene.
You have?
Yeah.
It's not a very nice feeling, is it?
No, it was a white guy.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I guess all white people are muggers, huh?
Yeah, but how many more? Look, you're only doing this to aggravate people, and you know you're only doing this to get more ratings on your show, Bob. You're just getting people on here because...
No, Gene, the fact of the matter is that with the share of the talk audience in Tampa, I can't reasonably expect to increase my share anymore. I've got virtually all of it.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to tell you something. I don't think you're at all fair in your reasoning in this. I think they get more than anyone I know have gotten.
Now let me see if I have this correct. You know exactly what Mayor Freedman would say to you if you ran to her office with your story. She would say that you were bigoted. And you know exactly what Dwight Gooden does with his money.
That's right.
And I'm the one who's living in a fantasy world.
You sure are, Bob.
Right.
You sure are. And I think she wanted that officer to apologize to Gooden. Do you think that was right?
I don't recall her asking anybody to apologize to Gooden.
She did. Oh, yes, she did. And then she wanted to give all those people in the project, paint it up, do this, do that. I live near 3 projects, Bob, and I'll tell you, you cannot help. You can't. They think everyone owes them a living. You know that.
No, I don't know any such thing, Gene. Don't put thoughts into my head.
Oh, you sure do. You were from Philadelphia?
How many times, do you have a very short attention span or something, or just a very poor memory?
You have a short attention span and know what's going on in Philadelphia, and that you can sit there and talk the way you're talking. Now, you know I'm right.
No, I don't, Gene. I know you're dead wrong. I know that you make up things as you're going along. I know that you fabricate. I know that you live in a fantasy world.
How many people?
That's what I know, Gene.
Listen, how many people move to Philadelphia, to the suburbs, and they have all this extra burden, financial burden on? They would gladly stay in Philadelphia because they're convenient to their place of employment, but it is impossible.
Oh, really?
Yes, you get garbage thrown in your yard. You get everything. They have a chip on their shoulder, Bob. Thanks.
It's amazing. Several million white people live in Philadelphia, Gene. Don't they?
Well, that's only because they can't afford to get out, Bob.
Oh, I see. All the white people in Philadelphia are too poor to leave.
Uh-huh.
Then how come they rent all of those $2,000 a month apartments in Society Hill? How come they rent all those $2,000 a month apartments at Rittenhouse Square?
How about the girl who worked with Atlantic Refining and was murdered?
No, how about what you just said, Gene? That only poor people live in Philadelphia, poor white people, and they can't afford to get out. That wasn't true, was it, Gene? That wasn't true, was it, Gene?
Who murdered the
I don't know. I have no idea what story you're talking about, Gene, but I do know that you just said something that isn't even close to true.
Oh, it sure is. You don't want to listen now. You're going to get on your high horse.
No, I'm not going to get on my high horse, Gene. I'm pointing out to you that you just told a blatant lie to make your point.
I did not tell a lie.
Yes, you did, Gene, when you said that.
No.
When you said the only people who live in Philadelphia are too poor to get out.
And listen to me, but you
when
won't
you
do it
said
because
the
you know
only
I'm right.
white people in Philadelphia who live there are too poor to get out, you were telling a blatant lie.
So long, Buster.
Yes, so long to you too, you subhuman lion pig. 20 Oriental, no matter what. I think we all have a very legitimate complaint with people who stand around with their hands out, or with people who will not help themselves, or with people who have no pride in themselves. We all have a very legitimate complaint with them, but I am not aware of any race. I am not aware of any nationality that does not have a certain percentage of their people who fall into that category. Are you? And when you get down to lying about, well, gee, the only white people in Philadelphia who are left are those who are too poor to move out, nothing could be further from the truth. When you get down to lying about, well, all black people are this, all black people are that, nothing could be further from the truth. And when you get down to lying to justify your prejudice, you see, we all have prejudice. Every single one of us. Anybody that tells you who don't is lying to himself. Tells you that he doesn't is lying to himself. We all suffer prejudice, myself included. But when you have to stoop so low as to lie to justify your prejudice, then you have a sickness. Prejudice is nothing more than a human trait. Prejudice amounts to fear of the unknown, fear of what is different. There may not be any logic or rationale behind it, but it's a human trait. And one need not be ashamed of being prejudiced unless one does not try to work at it. One need be ashamed of prejudice unless one has to resort to lying to justify it. George in St. Petersburg. George, you're on the air at WFLA.
Yeah, Bob, you admitted your prejudice, so that goes...
Yeah, I have many times, George, because to say anything else would be a blatant lie.
Okay, would you answer the question for me? I don't see any difference between the way one officer treated the other
then the way your insulting remarks about brain-damaged snowbirds, Canadians, elderly people...
Well, George, there is a big difference.
Any other group...
George, there is a real big difference. George, there is a real big difference. Would you like to know what the difference is, George?
What?
I get paid to do it. I'm encouraged to do it. The officer is expressly forbidden to do it under the pain of his job. That's the difference, George. Do you have another question?
Oh, I think you're just as cowardly and as prejudiced as that officer by attacking people. Like you hide behind a microphone and tell
No, I don't hide behind
people.
a microphone, George. I come before it every single day. And every single day I speak what is on my mind.
And cut people off like me to disagree with you.
No, George, I don't cut people off who disagree with me. I go out of my way, George. I go out of my way to get people on the air who disagree with me. It's how I get the big numbers, George.
Well, you get the big numbers because I agree with about 99% of what you say, but when you and that fool Norman start knocking everything...
Oh, great, George. Positively nothing to keep you from joining, from having an active part, from contributing, no matter what, to the United Negro College Fund.
Oh, yeah.
However, I think there is something that would keep a black man from joining the Ku Klux Klan.
That's one point I wanted to bring up. That's the only organization of white people that I've ever heard of. Not that I support them. I think they're, idiots if they walk around in hoods and burn crosses. They're nuts. But
and there are a number of white organizations.
That's what I wanted to ask you.
That are specifically formed for a specific purpose to fund, to encourage, to whatever, a group of white people. For example, in many communities, there's a Polish-American goal in mind, perhaps to raise funds to give scholarships. Well, there aren't a hell of a lot of black Poles.
Okay, let me give you an example. The United Negro College Fund. I saw a commercial some time back. It was the most pitiful thing I've ever seen, where a father and mother are sitting down at a table, and their son walks in the room, and they have to tell him that no, he can't go to college because they don't have enough money. I don't see. It was like like to make the nation cry. I mean, if they don't have the money to go to college, there's just as many ways to go to college as there isn't. I mean,
yeah, well, one of the ways that black people go to college is by getting grants and scholarships. Polish American Society. You want to bitch about them
Polish
too?
Can't be black.
What?
Who says Polish people can't be black? I mean, the word white or black in these cases. Another, Jesse Jackson. I supported the man. I mean, I really did like the way he brought up his issues and the way he discussed and opened up to him. But several times I saw him on TV taking photographs and everything. I didn't see one where he's sitting in the center and surrounded by black children, and I didn't see any white people there. And not that there maybe there wasn't any there.
Well, I don't think you watch very closely because one of the things that Jackson loves to be photographed doing is kissing a white baby.
Okay, that's the same thing with
just like a lot of white politicians like to be seen kissing black babies.
Right, exactly. But I'm just saying, in several cases, I've seen that. Well, there isn't any white people even walking around.
Well, that's usually when he's making an appearance at a black church.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you explain me there then. As far as these organizations go, and the officials of the state and government, officials like this firing of this police officer. This was done by her because basically that if she didn't, it would have been caused racist. And if she didn't fire the man, it would have laid pressure on her back. And regardless if it was a black man or a white man. Well,
of course, there was a different word.
Well, yeah, of course.
Somewhat more crude word for vagina. I doubt very much that one black man would call another black man that.
I've heard it several times, in joking, and sometimes serious. I come from an area where there's about 50.
Well, in the city of Tampa, were that to happen between two black people, the published, stated public policy is that individual would have had to have been fired.
Okay. Well, to get that straight, one other thing. I wanted to just, I don't know if this has any meaning or not, but I've got a neighbor who owns several homes in Tampa that he leases and rents out, and he tells me of many stories that when he goes down there on Friday afternoon to pick up his rent, it can't be sent to him because he can't depend on that. He actually has to go down. This means white people and black people living in these homes. He goes down there and he collects his rent from the white people,
if they've got it, if they don't got it, they give him an excuse and they tell him when they'll have it, and they have it when they say that they'll have it. But the other times, he has to sit out in front of the people that are renting the homes of the black people, and several times he has to sit out there till 3 or 4 in the morning to wait till these men get home. Whether they've collected their welfare checks or whether they've gotten their paycheck that day, he has to wait around because
there aren't any men collecting welfare checks unless they are disabled.
Right. Well, whatever the income is, and he goes down there alone by himself in Tampa and waits for these people to come home so he can collect his income.
Yeah, well, like I said earlier in the show, I used to own a TV and stereo rental store in Norfolk. Almost all of my clients were white, and I had about a 25% delinquency rate, which is very common in that particular industry. So what does that say?
It equals out.
Yeah, I guess it does. Thanks, Chris. Polish American Society. You want to bitch about them, too?
Polish can't be black.
What?
Who says Polish people can't be black? I mean, the word white or black in these cases. Another, Jesse Jackson. I supported the man. I mean, I really did like the way he brought up his issues and the way he discussed and opened up to him. But several times I saw him on TV taking photographs and everything. I didn't see one where he's sitting in the center and surrounded by black children, and I didn't see any white people there. Not that there maybe there wasn't any there.
Well, I don't think you watch very closely because one of the things that Jackson loves to be photographed doing is kissing a white baby.
Okay, that's the same thing with
just like a lot of white politicians like to be seen kissing black babies.
Right, exactly. But I'm just saying, in several cases I've seen that. Well, there isn't any white people even walking around.
Well, that's usually when he's making an appearance at a black church.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you explain me there then. As far as these organizations go and the officials of the state and government, officials like this firing of this police officer, this was done by her because basically that if she didn't, it would have been caused racist, and if she didn't fire the man, it would have laid pressure on her back, and regardless if it was a black man or a white man. Well,
of course, there was a different word.
Well, yeah, of course.
Somewhat more crude word for vagina. I doubt very much that one black man would call another black man that.
I've heard it several times, in joking, and sometimes serious. I come from an area where there's about 50.
Well, in the city of Tampa, were that to happen between two black people, the published, stated public policy is that individual would have had to have been fired.
Okay. Well, to get that straight. One other thing. I wanted to just, I don't know if this has any meaning or not, but I've got a neighbor who owns several homes in Tampa that he leases and rents out, and he tells me of many stories that when he goes down there on Friday afternoon to pick up his rent, it can't be sent to him because he can't depend on that. He actually has to go down. This means white people and black people living in these homes. He goes down there and he collects his rent from the white people. If they've got it, if they don't got it, they give him an excuse and they tell him when they'll have it, and they have it when they say that they'll have it. But the other times, he has to sit out in front of the people that are renting the homes of the black people, and several times he has to sit out there till 3 or 4 in the morning to wait till these men get home. Whether they've collected their welfare checks or whether they've gotten their paycheck that day, he has to wait around because
there aren't any men collecting welfare checks unless they are disabled.
Right. Well, whatever the income is. And he goes down there alone by himself in Tampa and waits for these people to come home so he can collect his income.
Yeah, well, like I said earlier in the show, I used to own a TV and stereo rental store in Norfolk. Almost all of my clients were white, and I had about a 25% delinquency rate, which is very common in that particular industry. So what does that say?
It equals out.
Yeah, I guess it does. Thanks, Chris.